Okay, so we're looking at Monday, the 13th, for the individual athletes on the season program. We're starting the day with some weightlifting. I wanted to build up to a decently heavy complex one more time before the weekend. Again, like I said on the other video, we've already tested strength in isolation, but that was just a single lift. So maybe a complex is the way that they're going to test strength this year. So you're going to go up decently heavy, but hold back a little bit. We're on competition week, so you don't need to be maxing out your body this week, but you need just a good idea of where your strength levels are at for this complex. So snatch, hang snatch, overhead squat, make sure you leave something in the tank and you're not going to complete failure. You're going to move on to the rack and just practice some overhead squat setups and decently heavy overhead squats. So you'll do a shoulder to overhead, whatever style you usually use to get the bar overhead, and then 2 overhead squats, keeping everything between 70 to 80% of your 1 rep max overhead squat. I would guess that that's a pretty solid bet for a movement that could come up either as a heavy movement or for lots of reps in a workout. It seems we didn't see that in the open. You're going to move on to some intervals. We're going to get after some chest to bars and thrusters, because that is a really common movement that pairing that we didn't get during the open again. So we're going to assume that it's going to come up at some stage of the season. This is a very low volume workout compared to what you would usually get. I think usually you would have, 3 to 4 sets of this type of thing, but instead you're just going to go 1 set of the chest to bar and thrusters, 1 set of the toes to bar and overhead squats, and then that final little mini chipper at the end. And it's just to get some final touches on gymnastics and those 2 pretty common squatting movements at some different loads, just so you feel like you've done those movements recently if they do come up at weekend. Accessory to finish that session. Session 2, same advice as I gave on Saturday. If you feel beat up going into this session already, then skip it. This is just some final practice on some some kettlebell work. If you feel beat up but you don't want to skip the session, then take out the conditioning component. Don't do the double unders. Just do some really slow paced practice of different kettlebell movements, just to feel a little bit more comfortable with how to move different weights. So you've got some sets with the 24, some sets or 16 for the girls, and then the heavier ones. I don't know what is going to come up with the kettlebells, but you have to assume that something is going to get programmed with them. So we're trying to cover all the bases there. And then you've just got some accessory to finish off that session, which again is totally optional. One thing I wouldn't do, guys, is cram all of this into one big session. I don't think that's so smart this week. I think there's going to be too much fatigue that builds up in that session. You have to be smart this week. It's not the time to overtrain and cram too many things into a session and end up feeling beat up going into Friday.